Hey everybody, Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Explorer here, and I'm bringing to you Sky Strikers. Yes, Sky Strikers. And my version of the deck is mostly on a budget, actually, because I'm on a budget. I hope that you enjoy the list. Let's go ahead and get right into it. First, like and subscribe to the page so that way you can see when more decks like this are coming out. I think next week is probably going to be Salamangreat because Mirage Stallion came back. And then I'm looking into different things, maybe scrap dinos or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see. But you'll have to subscribe so that way you can see what I end up deciding to give you guys. But anyways, let's jump right into this. Budget Sky Strikers for the July 2021 format. Alright guys, let's get right into the Sky Striker build. I think what we'll do is we'll start with the monsters as always. But the thing with Sky Strikers is there's just not very many that aren't hand traps. So we got, 3 Ray. I don't know anybody that doesn't play 3 Ray. Maybe I heard this joke from Yassine in his video about making a compilation of everybody goes 3 Ray. So maybe we'll throw that in there if I'm feeling artsy or whatever. And 2 Rose. I've thought about doing one. I even thought about running no Rose for a while, but you just need to see the Sky Striker monster, and for the consistency, it just is so much better when you play 2. You need to at least play 1, but it's so much better when you play 2. So then, other than Ray and Rose, all the monsters are hand traps. So I'll just jump right into those here too while we're on it. 1, Pancratops. It's really good, and the reason it's okay to play Pancratops is because you can use its effect to summon itself and then bounce itself, so then it's not in your main monster zone anymore, so it doesn't stop your spells from going off. 2 Effect Veiler. It's a decent hand trap, but also it's a tuner and a spellcaster for your link climbing play into access code. We have 3 Ash Blossom, and we have 3 Droll Knockbird. That being said, you can change out basically any of these hand traps that you want, but I absolutely would not change out the Effect Veiler, because that's kind of mandatory for getting into your access code. So now we'll go into our spells. Yes, there's a bunch. It's Sky Strikers, so so we play 1 multi-role, 1 Rhoda, 1 Hercules base, 1 Hornet drones, 1 engage, 1 terraforming, 1 set rotation, 1 Metal Foes fusion. So those are all your 1-of spells. It seems like a lot, but they're all either limited or only useful at 1. So that's what we play. Next, keep going with the Sky Striker spells. We have 3 Widowmaker, just absolutely overpowered spell, kind of bread and butter of the deck. Basically, you're just going to be cycling Engage and Widowmaker over and over and over and over and over again until you can break your opponent's board enough to kill them. On top of that, you have some other good Sky Striker spells and Shark Cannon. This is really good in this meta. Banishing stuff from the graveyard can really stop a lot of other decks from playing. On top of that, we also have 2 Afterburner to help dissect your opponent's board going second. We also play 3 Area 0. And the 3 Area 0, it's a nice searcher by milling through the top of your deck in case you didn't draw into a Sky Striker card or you're looking for that Sky Striker monster, it's just an extra draw tool basically. On top of that, while we're on field spells, 3 Mystic Mine. This is basically a engine card at this point because of how well it goes with the deck, since you only really ever have the 1 Link monster on field until you're going to OTK. Mystic Mine can really save you for some turns, let you build up resources, or even end up killing your opponent if they can't get outs to it somehow. Almost everybody has outs to Mystic Mine, but even if it only buys you 3 turns, that's 3 turns that you can, pick up Widow Anchor or Engage or something like that just helps you gain more resources or helps you break your opponent's board in the meantime. In the meantime, they're just drawing, especially if they're combo, they're just drawing more useless combo pieces since they've already gone off. So Mystic Mine's one of those cards that really helps this deck. On top of that, we also play our Foolish Burial Goods. So your first turn play, if you draw Foolish Burial Goods, is the Foolish Burial the Engage. But if you already have Engage, or you've already Foolish Burial the Engage, you can Foolish Burial the Metal Foes Fusion, which is why we play one of those, and then you get the draw off Metal Foes Fusion. And actually, sometimes that's a better play than just drawing into Engage or something like that, because you end up with an extra spell in the grave. And the last main deck card we play is Dark Ruler No More. Sky Strikers as a control deck is an excellent going second control deck because it's slow, but it's slow and slowly picks your opponent's board apart. It's not build up a board and then maintain it until you can kill. It's slowly pick your opponent's board apart and stay alive. So Dark Ruler No More helps you do that, stops them from, blocking some of your plays with monster effects that they build up on turn 1. So that's why I included that. So next we can get into the extra deck. The bread and butter of the extra deck is the Sky Striker monsters. So we have 3 Shiz, 3 Hayate, and 3 Kagari. And for those of you who haven't played Sky Strikers, Shiz adds a spell from your deck to the hand during end phase. Kagari recycles them from the grave at summon, and then Hayate can attack directly, and then at the end of damage step sends a spell from the deck to the graveyard. So you can cycle through. The reason you play 3 of each of these because you can cycle through them, link on top of one another, and use them to recycle your spells. Especially with Engage back at 1, Kagari is almost always going to cycle back Engage for the loop, and you can just keep using Engage and get draws as well as searching cards that you need into your hand. So that is about it for those. The other Sky Striker monsters we play is we play 1 Zeke and 1 Kaine. Kaine only comes up in very particular instances, but Zeke is great to link off into if you steal your opponent's monster with Widow Anchor or something like that. You could say you steal 2 monsters with Widow Anchor and Shark Cannon or something like that. You can make Zeke with one of them and your Sky Striker monster, and then banish the other one, and then that way you gain attack and they don't get their monster back right away. So one of the empty spots, I have Ningirsu, the World Chalice Warrior. It's a nice little filler. I'll discuss some other options for a couple of these spots as well here in a minute. And the last 3 extra deck cards are Selene, Needle Fiber, and this is supposed to be an access code talker. The bummer about this link climbing play that works the best with Sky Striker is that your link 4 has to be 2 monsters or less, so you can't replace access code with Borrelsword. But you can replace it with Topological Bomber Dragon or Zero Boros. The reason I chose Bomber Dragon is because when it attacks a monster, it deals damage equal to their attack too. So every time it attacks a monster, it's 3,000 damage. And if you attach Hercules base to this, it can attack 2 monsters in a turn. And every time you destroy a monster, you draw a card. So if you attach Hercules base, the top logic of Bomber Dragon, it's 6,000 damage, assuming they have 2 monsters on board because you can't attack directly. But it's 6,000 damage plus 2 draws, which is pretty good. It's not the OTK. It's not quite as explosive as Access Code. You don't have the board clearing effect of Access Code Talker. So I want that to be an Access Code Talker. I don't want to spend $100 on Access Code Talker, especially with it possibly coming out in the Megatins in August. So I think that Bomber Dragon is a reasonable budget replacement until Access Code Talker comes down in price. So let's talk about cards that you could cut for something else if you feel like it, if you you just don't like the cards, if you think that there's a better option. For the extra deck, I personally think that Kaine and Ningirsu could possibly be cut. I was trying to think through some like other options while I was testing the deck of like what works well with the deck, but is gonna get you something positive, because most of the time you're just gonna go into your Sky Striker, your other Sky Striker monsters. So these 2 spots are going to be if you're in a very particular situation. So like Ningirsu to me is particularly you're trying to link off linked monsters that you stole from your opponent or something, and that's what you're trying to do when you get Ningirsu out, and then it has a decent effect as well. Kaine is a nice stall card if you're trying to kill for time or something like that. The other cards that I've thought about putting in here are like Nightmare Unicorn and Phoenix, because they're good interruptions. And Nightmare Phoenix is a link 3 anyway. And what was another one? There's a handful of different cards you could play here. The biggest thing is don't feel like you're locked into what I showed you. Just because this is what I play right now doesn't mean it's what I'm going to be playing next week, and it doesn't mean that this is absolutely the best build. So be flexible with your deck building. Maybe start with this, and then if you never summoned in Ningirsu, maybe it's time to reevaluate. I'm kind of getting to that point where I don't summon Ningirsu very often, so I'm kind of trying to think through some of my other options, but for the time being it still holds a decent spot. It still has a decent purpose. Kaine comes up every once in a while, but I also don't summon her very often. So, I'm actively working through this as well, but I wanted to share with you guys what I've kind of decided is my best build so far, so that way you can kind of move forward with it as well. So, the main deck cards that I think are most likely to be taken out would be Hercules base, Metal's Foes Fusion, Droll and Lockbird, and Pankratops. Goodness, I can't talk. These 2 really depend on the meta. Right now, Pankratops and Droll and Lockbird are actually really high impact and actually pretty good cards. So I don't suggest taking them out right now, but just keep in mind that you can take them out in the future. I wouldn't take out Ash or Effect Veiler because they're both tuners, so you can go to Needle Fiber, and then Effect Veiler is your spellcaster for Selene. So I would leave the 2 Effect Veilers, 3 Ash Blossom for sure, but these ones can really come out depending on what the meta is like. Even Dark Ruler No More. Now the deck is best going second, so I would definitely leave Dark Ruler No More in. You could use Forbidden Drops. I don't have Forbidden Droplet because it's expensive. So if you want to replace Dark Ruler No More with Forbidden Droplets, that's fine too. But the bigger thing here are these spells. So with Hercules base, it's pretty good for an equip spell to gain a second attack and also get draws, which is why I played one of it. You can search it with your Sky Striker monsters and engage, and then you can attach it to something like Topological Bomber Dragon, or if you have the access code, attach it to access code and get 2 attacks. And if you have a 5300 attack access code talker and you can pop all the spells and things, you could attack into, I believe it's 2600 worth of attack and still OTK your opponent. So I think Hercules base is worth having in your deck just to increase that potential, as well as the draw power then too. Metalfoes Fusion I feel like is a get out of having Foolish Burial Goods stuck in your hand card, but there's lots of options in this deck for Foolish Burial Goods, because you could Foolish Burial Goods a Widow Anchor and then use Kagari or multi-roll to bring back the Widow Anchor, plus you play 3, so like losing the Widow Anchor, having in the grave to access it later is helpful and not detrimental to have like its total number in your deck, because you still have 2 in deck. So if you didn't want to play the Metalfoes Fusion, because it's like if you draw the Metalfoes Fusion, it's kind of bricky, but what I would do is I would set it and I would target the set Metalfoes Fusion with a Area 0, so you can cycle through the cards in your deck, and then if you get a Sky Striker monster, you can still get rid of it. So for that reason, I play it, because there's still ways to get rid of it even if it's in hand. But if you don't like it because it's not actively doing anything with half of its effect, all it's doing is being in the graveyard for draws, then you can cut this out. I would still play the Foolish Burial Goods to get engaged in grave, but you could take this out and it probably wouldn't be detrimental to the deck. You could play a 3rd Shark Cannon or a 3rd Afterburners or something like that. You could, if you took out Hercules base and Metalfoes Fusion and the Pankratops, you could play another set of hand traps. You could play Forbidden Droplets and Dark Rolling No More, something like that. You play Triple Tactics Talent. I did think about doing that since it's a going second deck. Triple Tactics Talent would actually be a pretty high impact card. I was just trying to keep the list to 40 cards, and I think that the list I have right now is higher impact without Triple Tactics Talent, especially because you're relying on your opponent to do something to you, especially since you're going second and you're not summoning very many monsters or anything. The likelihood that they Ash the Kagari or something is still pretty good. I guess they would Ghost Spell like Kagari, but so keep that in mind. If you want to splash in the Triple Tactics Talent, it is a really good card for this deck. The cards I would take out for Triple Tactics Talent are probably Metalfoes Fusion and maybe an Area 0. So I'd play 2 Area 0 instead of 3, but I would leave Hercules base in, I'd keep all my hand traps in, and I would just cut Metalfoes Fusion and an Area 0 for 2 Triple Tactics Talent. So that's my build. I hope that you guys like it. I hope that you guys can take what I've been playing with and make it your own, make some changes, add some stuff to it, and maybe make it a really effective tier 1 deck for this meta. Thank you, Konami, for bringing back Engaged. I started playing after they banned Engaged, so it has been sad really getting to love Sky Striker without Engaged, and then it came back. I know everybody hates it, and I'm sure it's going to get banned again, but it's nice while it lasts just to see what the deck's like at full power, quote unquote full power. But also, I don't have as high expectations. This deck's kind of tricky to play sometimes. I have a sneaking suspicion that Tri-Brigade and Drytron are going to roll the meta, and as long as Sky Striker isn't tier 1, I don't see a reason why Engage has to go away. But I digress. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.